Hola clase. I am in module or week 10, and we're just looking through to see what's going on for this week. So for this coming Monday, you have to do exploraciones léxicas dos. You're doing el día, la fecha y la hora, and we're going to learn that today in our Edpuzzle class. And you also just want to get started on gramaticales tres, which is the verb ir. You're just previewing that. You also have an essay due, and you definitely please make sure that you watch the video that's associated. It's due by 11:59 on Monday, but go through and take notes as you watch the video. It's only 2 minutes or so, but just so you know what you should include. And then you can email me, just copy and paste the email right into the body of the email, and I can take a look at it before Monday and give you any feedback. And then that does help your grade a lot too. You'll lose points if you have errors without checking with me. So then you can submit it after you get it checked, but via email. So that's for Monday. So what we want to do now, and I want to just encourage you to start using the PowerPoints that I have in the different modules. So in Module 9, when we started Capítulo 3, we had this new PowerPoint. So we're just going to look at this now and make some sentences. When we last had class, we talked about gustar, and we also talked about that in our Edpuzzle class last week. So what you want to do for numero uno is you just want to decide which one goes best with numero uno. Remember, gustan, me gustan, for example, is used with plural, sustantivos plurales. Those are your plural nouns. And when you use me gusta, it's usually referring to either a verb like ayudar or correr or comer, or a singular noun, a sustantivo singular. So let's just go through these. So for numero uno, it says, en el restaurante me gustan. So which one would go best with me gustan? It should be, en el restaurante me gustan los menús variados, varied menus. Número dos, en el restaurante no me gusta. So for that one, it would be el servicio malo, bad service. En la universidad me gusta. Since it's me gusta, we're looking for a singular noun or an infinitive. It probably would be la clase de inglés, because that's the only one that really makes sense. Número cuatro, en la universidad no me gustan. So for that one, we're looking for a plural noun. It would be los exámenes difíciles. Cinco, en casa me gusta. So ayudar a mis hijos con su tarea, helping my children with their homework. So I like to help. So that's the infinitive example. That's why we're using me gusta. En casa no me gustan las tareas domésticas, chores. So that's just some examples that we can use with gustar. So what we're going to do now is just do a little bit of conjugating, because we did talk about that last class, and we want to make sure that we can conjugate verbs in the ER and the IR. So we want to, let's first just review and make sure that you know all of your endings. You were supposed to make your 6-pack last time we talked. So let's just do the endings. So we have O, es, make sure you have this in your notebook. Hemos, es, and N. That's what you're going to add to, so you had comer, you're going to take off your ER first, and then you're going to add your endings. Como, I eat. Comes, you eat. You do eat. You are eating. Come, comemos, we eat. Coméis, y'all eat. And comen, they eat, or it could be y'all, you guys, if you're not from España. And then for IR verbs, like recibir, to receive, we have our 6-pack again. It's very similar to ER verbs. We have O, es, e, but instead of hemos, we have imos, we have is, and we have en. So the difference is going to be the imos and the hemos. Kind of makes sense because it's IR, ER, and then the is and the a's. You just have to memorize these at this point. So you want to, at this point, you're going to write for these verbs. So for número uno, we have José escribir. Let's say una carta. Let's add something to this. So we want to say Jose writes a letter. Una carta. So for that one, we should have said something like Jose escribe una carta. So it's escribe because Jose it's escribir, to write, and Jose is a male, one male, so it's escribe una carta. All right. Número dos, we have los amigos comer en un restaurante. So let's do the friends eat in a restaurant. Los amigos. We can't say the friends to eat. We have to change comer to the conjugated form. So we want to say they eat. So we first want to take off our ER. Número tres, tú comprender español. So you want to say you understand or you do understand. You are understanding español. So you first want to take off your ER and put your ending for tú. Cuatro, yo leer un libro. So I read a book. I am reading a book. Laura y Roberto creen que hay clase. Creer, perdón, que hay clase. Creer is to believe that. Creer que. So they believe that there is class. And then mi familia y yo vivir en una casa. We want to change that vivir to match mi familia y yo. And remember, yo plus somebody else becomes nosotros. So it's we. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to go over the días, the meses del año and the días de la semana. Next time we have class, I'm going to do a little song with you to the tune of We Will Rock You. But for today, we'll just go over. So you want to just know your months. If you want to pause this video now and just make sure that you have your months written. Months are not capitalized in Spanish. Make sure that you know that. And we also have our días de la semana. Okay, so we just have the months here. We'll just do it this way. So we have enero would be the first month. That's your January. And then after enero, we have febrero. So we'll make sure, I would just take some notes on this. Then we have marzo and abril. Mayo. And then we have junio. Make sure you don't capitalize these. Julio. And then we have agosto. Not agosto, but agosto. We have septiembre. And then we have octubre. And then we have noviembre and then diciembre. So when you're writing the months, the date for the months, so for example, in English, we would say like February 10th, 2021, for example, or 2022, let's say. So, but in Spanish, that doesn't make sense to people in Spanish because the month is it goes month, day, year. But if you go from smallest to largest, you would go day, month, year. And that's most of the world actually writes it like that. People in English write it, they seem very opposite. So when we're writing the date, we always want to say el. We're going to start with the. So we'd say like el, and hoy es el tres. So we would say like el tres de noviembre to say November 3rd. And then we would also say de for the year. And then we would say something like 2021. 2021. So that's an example of how we would write the date. So if we wanted to write something like January 10th, 2021. And if we wanted to write October 15th, 2022. And if we wanted to write March 3rd, 2000, we would go in this order. So let's try January 10th, 2021. We want to say the 10th of January of 2021. So in this case, you should have written el 10 de enero is January, de 2021. Or you could also write it like this, 21, all one word with that TI. Now we have October 15th, 2022. For that, you should have written el 15 de octubre de 2022. So we have 22, all one word. Oops. Or we could write it as 22. And for the last one, we have March 3rd, 2000. So that one should have been el 3 de marzo de 2000 of 2000. So basically, we have to remember that we have the and then tres. So we're putting the number of the month. Let's just do one more. Let's do June 17th. And let's do 1976. It's a little harder. So for that one, it should have been el 17 de junio de, and this one's going to be a little trickier. It's not just 2000, it's mil. We're going to start with 1000. And then 900 is 900. And then 76. Don't worry too much if you don't know all your numbers, but eventually you do want to know your numbers. You have 100, and then 200, 300, 400, 400, 500, 500, 600, 600, 700, 700, 800, 800, and then 900 is 900. But for the year, we always want to do 1976 and not 1976. So this is just a brief introduction to the dates. And then the other thing that we do need to know are the days of the week. So what we want to do is make sure that we know those. So we have the meses del año. We have our meses del año, which is our years, months of the year. Make sure you know that. That's months of year. And then just like the meses del año, the días de la semana, los días de la semana, and just copy these in your notes. Those are your days of the week. So the Spanish week always starts with Monday. So, and they're not capitalized just like the months. So we have lunes is Monday. We have martes, Tuesday. We have miércoles for Wednesday. We have jueves for Thursday. We have viernes for Friday. And you notice that miércoles has an accent. Also, sábado has an accent. Sábado. And then we have domingo as Sunday. So we have lunes, martes, miércoles, jueves, viernes, sábado, y domingo. So if we wanted to say something like today is Wednesday, November 3rd, 2021, what would we say? We would say something like hoy es miércoles. Today is Wednesday. El 3 de noviembre, like we learned before, de 2021 or 21. So that's how we write the dates and the date, also the days. Another thing we do in Spanish when we're talking about like Wednesdays or Saturdays, we add the word los. So to say that something happens on a certain day, we would say mi hermana practica deportes los sábados on Saturdays. If you were just doing on Saturday, just one Saturday, you could say mi hermana practica deportes el sábado for one Saturday, on Saturday. So los sábados on Saturdays and then el sábado for on Saturday. And then remember, for the first of the month, you never say primero de, or you never say uno de octubre. You always say el primero de octubre. But for all the other days, like we talked about in last class, it's going to be the days. So you'd say like el 2 de octubre, el 3, el 4. But just for that first, you want to make sure that it's primero. When we talk about time, this is the last point for today. When we talk about time, it's a little complicated. It's simple, but it's also complicated. So whenever you're asking for the time, you're asking ¿qué hora es? What time is it? This section's a little heavy because it has dates and days and how to write the date and then also time. So it's a little heavy, but we'll get through it. What time is it? So to say what time it is in Spanish, if you're talking about 1 o'clock, it's going to be singular. So think of one as singular. So say something like es la una is 1. So es la una, and say that it was 1:05. So what we do in Spanish is we add the minutes with the word y. So we're saying like it's 1 and 5. So you say es la una y cinco. If it were 1:10, we would say es la una y 10. If it were 1:15, we could say es la una y. You could either say quince, but oftentimes we say y cuarto, which is like quarter after, y cuarto. And then for 30, we could say es la una y media, which is like half past, or we could also say y 30. Both are understood, but you're going to see y media in your textbook. And then we'll talk a little bit about subtracting, because what happens with time is we have to subtract after 35. So say that we had 1:40. We're essentially going to go to the next hour, which is 2. And whenever we're talking about 2 o'clock to 12 o'clock, it's no longer singular. So instead of saying es la una, we would say son las. So from 2 o'clock all the way to 12 o'clock, we say son las. So we have son las dos or son las tres. It's 3 o'clock. So that's 3. This is 2. So with 1:40, we're essentially going to go to the next hour, which is 2, and we're going to say it's 2 minus 20 because it's 20 minutes to 2. So we would say son las dos menos minus 20 to say it's 1:40. Sometimes I do hear people say es la una y 40. It's 1 and 40. So you could still say es la una y 40, but the chapter is in the work in the book is talking about how we go to the next hour, especially after about 35. So about 1:35 or 2:35 or 4:45, whatever it is, past that 35, usually we're going to do the subtraction, and we'll do a little bit more work with this in class. So if we had 4:20, what would we do? Would we say es la or cuatro or son las cuatro? Since it's not singular, it's 4, we're going to use the son las. So we'd say son las 4:20. If it were 4:25, we would say son las 4:25. Usually after 35, though, so say it was like 4:50. We're going to go to the next hour, so we would say it's 5 minus 10. So we would say son las 5 menos 10. That's typical for after 35 minutes or so for every hour. If we're talking about the afternoon, say that it's 4:20 a.m. So a.m. usually you're saying de la mañana. So you would say son las 4:20 de la mañana. If it's p.m. afternoon, usually you're going to say de la tarde. And tarde is actually a lot longer in Spanish-speaking countries. It's usually till it gets dark. So if it's 6 o'clock, they're still saying de la tarde. It's usually when it gets dark. And then p.m. evening, so I'm going to say like after 7 is de la noche. So just make sure you know those de la noche. So you would say, for example, son las 7:30 de la noche. So just to review, you do have this y media for 30. Just make sure you know that. Y cuarto for 15 after, or y quince. And then for all the other times, you're just adding the minutes by adding y. So it's just a brief introduction. We'll do a little bit more work with this in class on Tuesday. And then we also have some practices we're going to do on Tuesday during our time together. Muchas gracias, estudiantes.